Saturday, UFC 209. Everyone agrees it did not live up to our expectations. Let's not forget UFC 205's version of this fight was the fight of the night on maybe, one of the best cards of the last few months, the MSG card here in New York. That ended in a draw, and you can make a very strong case for this fight ending in a draw. It was super close. First and second rounds, essentially nothing happened. I mean, I think the combined significant strikes was like 8 apiece. It was wild. I don't quite agree with the idea that those two first rounds were for, rounds 1 and 2 were 10-10s. I can't quite go that far. And so I'm leaning towards Wonder Boy for those two, 1 and 2. Round 3 was very easy to score with the takedown and the damage on the ground, Tyron Woodley. Round 4, again, was a tough one, but I lean towards Wonder Boy. And then round 5 was pretty even up until like the last 30 seconds or so. And then, of course, the most action of the night, the most damage of the night. Remember, there are essentially 3 Ds that you have to look at with the new scoring: damage, dominance, and duration. So it was clear that Woodley won the round, but did he do enough to get a 10-8? I didn't think that it was long enough, so duration, and dominant enough to give him the 10-8. But it's arguable. It's so close with the scoring. And a lot of people, including UFC President Dana White, saying that, this one judge gave it a 10-8. Even Bob Bennett, credit to him for showing up to the press conference, said, he was not in favor of that scorecard. I thought he was a little aggressive in his description of it, but I appreciate him coming out. I'm not going to argue with him. I think you can make a case for it, but I don't, at the end of the day, think it was a 10-8. Let's not forget, though, only one judge scored it a 10-8, and it didn't really matter. If it was a 10-8 or a 10-9, it didn't really matter because that judge had it 47-47 with the 10-8. Had it been 10-9, he would have given it to Stephen Thompson, but still the other two judges scored in favor of Woodley 48-47. So even if he would have given it a 10-9, it didn't really affect the fight. So I don't know why we were harping on it so much. That judge was Sal D'Amato. Other two who gave it to Woodley, Chris Lee, and Derek Clearly. Let me bring in Mr. New York Rick here because it's fascinating to debate this. So I'm assuming, unless he was busy doing something else, shopping, another birthday party, who knows what, he watched the card on Saturday. Am I right in assuming that?
You are right. I was watching it. I was in my room crying for a bit when you listed everybody at MMA fighting except for me.
Well, people. I saw some people on the Instagram. I didn't expect that speech to go out, publicly, but it did.
Oh, that makes it better.
But I mean, there's so many other people. Where do you draw the line? I draw the line at the people who actually work 5 days a week.
Sure.
Where do you draw the line? And I forgot someone who worked 5 days a week, 7 days a week.
I mean,
I forgot Chuck Mandel.
Chuck should also.
He should be pissed.
He should be lobbying.
For the record, I wrote him a message.
Oh, great.
But I did not write you one. If it was going to be the MMA Hour, of course
Fantastic.
I was going to mention you and Alex and Will and Nick and Rob and Miles and Paige and
here's my
Joe. I would have mentioned all those people who work on the shows.
This show.
You get the wrap-up sign. The second you walk up there, it's very tense. I'm staring at Tito Ortiz's big head. He sees me in the back. He refuses to say hello to me. I don't know what kind of grudge he's holding on to, but I'm like looking. He's the only face that I see up there. I'm like, oh, God, Tito Ortiz, I love you so much. And I just, I get a little nervous. I don't want to take up all the time. I don't want to be that guy thanking everyone, And plus, what about Sean and Luke in the back? They could have helped me out. They could have mentioned some names. Luke craps on everyone else. Yeah. Sean doesn't want to say anything.
I think that one that had to be all on you.
Fair enough. My apologies.
No, but congratulations, obviously.
Well,
the site, you...
Well, the site, I mean, you're a part of the site. I just,
Evidently not.
As I said, come on. As I said to my wife, I don't need to tell the world how much I love you. I tell you I love you every day. So the same goes to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. That fight, yes, I did watch. I watched the whole card. I scored the fight 49-48. How does that work out?
No. Just give me the rounds. Round 1?
10-10.
10-10?
Nothing happened in that round where one guy won that round.
Yeah.
You're saying you're leaning toward it. I don't know what more convincing you would need. Why did Wonder Boy win that round? What is your argument for it?
They say now that the three main things you have to look at: damage, dominance, and duration, right?
Yep.
You essentially, you don't need to have all three, 2 out of 3.
What dominance, what damage?
I don't know.
And
by
that's
the
why
way,
it's 10-10.
Octagon, I'm fine with, let's just throw out the first 2 rounds and go 3, 4, and 5.
Perfect.
And by the way,
because I think the first 2 were 10-10.
And by the way, let's just make it very clear. This was not a robbery.
No.
Again,
nonsense.
This was not controversial. It was debatable. Again, it was one of those fights where it was close, but I don't think the wrong man won. I think you could sit down, as I like to say in a barbershop, a bar, whatever, and debate it. I also want to say, and this might piss people off, I didn't hate it as much as other people. I actually kind of enjoyed it, and I'll tell you why. The first fight was so much fun that I felt like I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, thinking that something was going to happen, as it did in the last 30 seconds. Of course, never came to fruition. I would never tell someone, go back and watch this fight, knowing how it plays out. But while it was unfolding, I enjoyed it. And I must say, I have to give a lot of credit to Dominic Cruz because I think he made me enjoy it even more. I thought his commentary was phenomenal.
There's a certain point where that dissipates, though. You get to the middle of round 2, and they've thrown 10 strikes each, and that
the lack of activity
spring,
was like weirdly fascinating.
Yeah, but that coiled spring like tension is gone. Now it's clear that they're just dancing around each other.
Okay, so first and second round
10-10.
10-10. Third round is obvious.
Woodley.
Fourth round
Thompson.
Fifth round
Woodley.
How you score it?
10-9. No, that was not a 10-8.
Yeah.
Let's pump the brakes here. But as you said, that doesn't really affect the scoring based on how I had it. If the first 2
doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if the first 2 were 10-10 and Woodley won 1 and Wonder Boy won 1, if he won 10-8, 10-9, it doesn't really matter. It would have been a win for Woodley either way.
Right.
But that's how I had it.
Right.
I had it scored for Woodley. I just think that there was nothing in round 1 or 2 that could distinguish one man from the other.
Also, I should note the new scoring criteria is not in effect in Nevada.
Correct.
I don't even know. I mean,
it's
the main thing is like the eye pokes and the kidney strikes and the clavicle stuff. I still kind of feel like it's relatively similar, but yeah.
But it's important to note that because we're sitting here talking about I score it this way, I score it this way. Well, you score it this way under what rules?
Yeah. Whereas, you have to score it, as far as the old rules are concerned.
Yeah, well,
criteria.
Are the people who are weighing in on this necessarily doing that? It creates a lot of confusion. This idea that the rule sets
what the hell's taking them so long?
And judging are not implemented across every jurisdiction makes it a big deal.
I actually asked Bob Bennett about this. Why haven't they adopted the new rules, and how long is it going to take? It sounds like we're still several months away. He was saying that, they will, but it's kind of a bureaucratic thing, a lot of red tape that they can't just pass it like everyone else did, come January 1st, which to me is crazy. I mean, we're trying to unify the sport. But anyhow, with or without the new rules, I feel like you score it the same.
I'm not familiar enough, but I think there's certain distinctions about 10-8, which would change it, no?
Maybe the 10-8s are given...
They're given more freely in my understanding of it.
If we're going to go to old rules, then I kind of feel like, if I'm being honest, I kind of feel like it's easier to score it in favor of Wonder Boy first and second rounds 10-9 because of that dreaded octagon control. He was pressing.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't utilizing the range in any significant way. He was advancing. Woodley had his back against the cage, but I wouldn't necessarily say Woodley was retreating. He did control the center. I just didn't, in my opinion, there wasn't enough, just to be frank, there weren't enough strikes thrown. There wasn't enough attempts to damage.
Let me ask you this. In your opinion, fight like this, does it take 2 to tango? Meaning, are they both at fault? Or
1,000,000%.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Did it backfire in hindsight to do the immediate rematch? Because now they both felt each other's power. They know what to expect, especially when you're dealing with someone like Wonderboy, who's so tricky, someone like Woodley, who's so powerful. It was so fresh in their minds that they were both kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. Remember what both said, especially Wonderboy after the first fight, he didn't let it go. He wasn't himself. He didn't let it all hang out. It felt like he was even more tentative this time, perhaps because he felt that power.
Yeah, but on the other side of the coin, you've seen what they've got now, and now you should be able to let go because you can't anticipate what the other person has in their arsenal. It's just, both guys are to blame for. Now, I say this with, if they look, Tyron Woodley is not walking around with his head down. He's the UFC welterweight champion. He successfully defended his title, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be walking around with his head held down. But if their goal was to entertain the fans, I would say they fell short. And in that case, they're both to blame for that.
Did Woodley?
It was not an entertaining fight. I don't think you'd find somebody who could argue that.
Everyone wants to win emphatically. Everyone wants a finish. Yep. Everyone wants an exclamation point. But considering the road to this fight for Woodley, how polarizing he's been, is this one notch below an actual loss because now it kind of adds fuel to that fire? Oh, you know, you're not an exciting champion, blah, 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 blah. I mean, let's just put it out there. I thought the UFC did a really poor job of building Woodley leading up to the fight. I mean, the only times we ever heard from Dana White last week was him criticizing Tyron Woodley. You're a promoter. Your job is to actually promote. Your job is to get people excited to watch your champion fight. How about telling the world, this guy's got dynamite in his hands. This guy is the second coming of, I don't know, Matt Hughes. Say whatever you want. But to just go out there and be like, yeah, you fought to a draw. You know, now prove me that you're better than that. That's not promoting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, does this hurt him?
Yeah, it hurts his stock for sure.
Yeah.
If you're going to be, Tyron was very vocal leading into this fight and talking about, you know, what he deserves to have and, you know, what the next steps are for him. Based on this performance, he definitely didn't put people in his corner. Again, I think there's nothing wrong with a performance like this. I thought Anderson Silva versus Damian Maia was an overly criticized fight. I've said this many, many times.
Well, that fight was different because he was playing games.
Yeah, but at the same time, a champion. Look, if you defend your belt, if you've done what you need to do to be successful and keep that belt another day, another month, another year, you've done your job. That's all you can say as a champion. And I don't necessarily have a problem with how Tyron fought. If Wonderboy wanted that belt, he should have come and taken it, and he didn't. And so, from that standpoint, I think Tyron has nothing to be worried about, ashamed of, whatever. But it did hurt his stock. People are not going to be able to rally behind him after this one. If he had, you know, called his shot and made all this noise and then came out there and flattened Wonderboy in round one, he would have had a damn good case, you know, in terms of being able to dictate what's next, in terms of being able to be the one in the driver's seat. But now he's not. He's put himself in the backseat.
Two quick questions before we get to Maia for you. If you're the UFC, who do you book Woodley up against next? Do you wait to see what happens with Masvidal and Maia? Do you have?
I guess it has to be the winner of that. It has to be the winner.
Problem is that fight's in 2 months.
Yeah, let him take some time off and.
Yeah. And if you're the UFC, do you go back to the well with Khabib and Ferguson? Do you try it one more time?
Oh boy.
I tell you, UFC 210. Look at that card, Buffalo. It is super thin. They are missing some stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's what you do. You put it on a card that kind of just needs a boost and just, you know, knock on every piece of wood you have in your entire house and pray.
Maybe that's what AK needs. 2 AKA guys at the top to combat this bad luck that they've had as of late. They've had some bad luck. Cormier, Kane, Rockhold, Khabib. Their 4 biggest names all pulling out of fights.
Yep.
For various different reasons, of course, but and Kane was kind of bad luck as well. This was bad luck. Just a strange stretch for them. They'll be back, but yeah, it is I feel for Javier Mendez. I really do. Anyhow, let's grab Damian Maia, who's up next. Curious